Welcome back. We are currently 2-0 with Dragonstorm, and we're going to start the third round to see if we can keep that streak going. If you are just joining us, go back to round 1, start watching from the beginning. You can see how we got here. It's awesome. The deck is doing great. If you want to learn a bit more, I've got a link to the primer I wrote up in the description. Basically, what we're doing is casting a lot of rituals, mana-producing spells to cast Dragonstorm to get a bunch of big giant dragons onto the battlefield. Our opponent this game is playing a sick lands brew using Horn of Greed, Exploration, and a bunch of fun lands to control the battlefield, attack my mana base, and eventually choke me out and win the game. Let's go check it out. Alright, I'm on the draw with a mull to 5. Opponent opens with a Treetop Village. I'll play out a Geothermal Crevice. They'll drop a Mishra's Factory. Very sick, black bordered, signed. Followed up by an Oath of Druids. I am perfectly happy to see that. Obviously, I don't really care about Oath of Druids. I'll play out an Ancient Tomb. Puts me up to 4 mana available. And I will pass the turn. Opponent comes to swing in with the factory. I'll play a Thawing Glaciers, which is an interesting third land. Drop a Sandstone Needle. I probably talked about it in the intro about what my opponent is playing, but at this point I know we talked before the match that we were both on a little bit of spice. So I'm curious what they're doing. They're curious what I'm doing at this point. I'm going to drop a Lotus Petal here and pass. With an Ancient Tomb and Lotus Petal, I can cast an Intuition at their end step. Ooh, but they played a Rishadan Port. I'm not super happy to see. Take 2 from Ancient Tomb to cast that Intuition. I'll present them 3 Lion's Eye Diamonds, 1 to hand, 2 to graveyard. Intuition goes in the graveyard after the 2 cards that go to grave. Graveyard order matters in Premodern after all. On my upkeep, they're going to attempt to Rishadan Port the Sandstone Needle, which I'll just let that go through. Doing a quick count up of mana that I have available. We know, because we've seen the Lion's Eye Diamond, there's at least 7 available. Throw out a Lotus Petal, Storm 1, Lion's Eye Diamond, this is 8 mana represented. And Lion's Eye Diamond number 2 will mean 11 mana represented. Storm 3, this is enough to cast a Burning Wish. Sack the Geothermal Crevice, get that green-black. Take 2 from the Ancient Tomb to add a couple of colorless, and stop before casting because I realize I want to use my 2 mana to throw out Cabal Ritual first. This way I can cast it holding priority because I don't need the mana right away. And I can cast Intuition on top of it. This will give me enough mana because I will have Threshold after I put 3 more cards in graveyard with Intuition before the ritual resolves, and with both of those on the stack, I can sacrifice both Lion's Eye Diamonds, floating 6 red, and this will be 5 black when Cabal Ritual resolves. So 11 minus 9 is 2. With Storm 6, I will be able to get all of my dragons. And I will have 2 mana left over for Bladewing the Risen to also pump my team, so I can come in for 26 damage this turn. Here comes the Dragonstorm. Get my biggest, baddest dragon, Rorix Bladewing. All 4 Volcanic Dragons, as well as my Bladewing the Risen. My opponent scoops it up. It's nice we're able to pick up the first win on a mulligan to 5. Taking a look at the sideboard, my opponent is taking out a few cards. I know from after the match they're siding out those Oath of Druids. I'm looking at mine and my sideboard. Those don't look particularly helpful for me either. And I don't really have anything on my sideboard to bring in versus them. I don't know exactly what their strategy is at this point. They have something scary they can bring out with Oath. Maybe it's some Manor of Terror. Obviously, I've seen a lot of different lands. I don't realize this is a lands deck, but the Glacial probably should have tipped me off to that. Kicking off game 2, we both keep 7. My opponent is on the play. To my detriment, as it turns out, as they start out with Exploration and a Treetop Village. I'll run out my modest Peat Bog. They drop a couple more lands, including a Dust Bowl, and I get Dust Bowled turn 1. I don't get my turn 2 before I get Dust Bowled. My opponent's turn 2. They've dropped 4 lands, and this is looking pretty brutal for me at this point. All of my lands come in tapped. A lot of them do anyway, the important ones. I need to play them, untap, and kind of reset a little so I can actually use my mana. And my opponent is going to keep stocking up on lands with mulch, and they'll have pretty much free reign to Dust Bowl because I have 0 basic lands in this deck list. Drop a couple more lands and drop a Phyrexian Furnace as well, which will hurt my ability to get Threshold on Cabal Ritual. They're going to Gaia's Blessing a few cards back into their deck. I do get to untap with Sandstone at least. I'll drop a second one to be its buddy. Now the Dust Bowl lock is not insurmountable for my deck. I have enough 0-cost artifacts, notably Lion's Eye Diamond, that if I can draw into those some combination of Lotus Petals and Lion's Eye Diamonds, that it's not like I can't generate enough mana that I need. But obviously, losing a land every single turn is not the greatest. There goes another Sandstone Needle. There's not a lot I can do other than just keep playing out tap lands and hoping my opponent gets bored of Dust Bowling them. They're going to drop a Horn of Greed. Horn of Greed is interesting. Lands either player plays are going to draw cards now. This does help me out a lot. If I can keep hitting those land drops even if they're coming tapped, they'll keep helping me churn through my deck, find those mana artifacts, keep me live in the game. Well, I did get a break from Dust Bowl this turn. I am now getting Rashad imported. So now even the meager lands that I have are going to be even less available to me. There's not a lot I can do with my lands at instant speed on my upkeep during Rashad import. Potential like intuition lines I could do, but other than that, I'm going to want those main phase. Ancient Tomb now comes with the Rider text to draw a card, but I have been unable to play anything so much that I have to discard Infernal Contract. Really, I was planning to play Infernal Contract turn 2 once I untapped that Peat Bog. Again, that was my first land of the game, and I did not get to untap with it because my opponent played 4. So that Infernal Contract was just sitting in my hand. I just don't have the black mana to cast it. If I had a Dark Ritual, maybe, but I don't have any black source other than sacrificing Geothermal Crevice. Opponent now has 3 Mishra's Factories. They're going to attack with one of them, and my upkeep, they're going to tap down the Ancient Tomb. Drop a Peat Bog to draw a card. One of my issues right now is that they've been very good at keeping me off colors of mana. I need both black and red to do stuff, and Geothermal Crevice can only pick between the 2. Ancient Tomb obviously doesn't help at all. So I can untap, I'll have access to both black and red, but obviously that is unlikely to happen. There's not a lot I can do other than just pass the turn and discard. I'm drawing cards off of the Horn of Greed, but simply don't have the untapped lands to play them. I ditch a second copy of Burning Wish. An opponent is absolutely shredding through their deck with the Horn of Greed, and they have lands to spare, and will chuck a forest at my Peat Bog, continuing to restrict my access to black mana. They come in with a factory, drop me to 14, and on my upkeep, they will tap down the Ancient Tomb. I drop out a Gemstone Mine I've been saving in my hand, using the other lands as kind of bait to make sure I would have access to any sort of color that I want on the turn that I play it. It's very powerful, but it is not free for my opponent to keep Dust Bowling. They are having to sacrifice those lands. They are having to tap down a lot of mana every turn to keep doing that. That helps limit a little bit what they're able to do. They can't just smash in with triple Mishra's Factory nonstop if they want to keep Rashad importing and Dust Bowling. My Gemstone will survive, and they'll Dust Bowl the Geothermal Crevice. This might be a reprieve that I'm hoping for. Access to whatever color I want, including blue, which I didn't have before either. If I want to try to intuition. My upkeep, they'll attempt to tap down the Gemstone Mine. I'll just let that go because I still don't have anything to do with it. At least not at instant speed. Drop a second Gemstone Mine. Part of why I was willing to run out the first. At this point, my opponent has the 3 Mishra's Factories, which can attack for 6 damage, which is especially relevant with Ancient Tomb. That means if I take one more hit from Mishra's Factory, I'm only going to be able to tap Ancient Tomb twice at this point. So if I want to use it this turn, I might not have another tap with it. We'll run out a Lotus Petal and pass the turn. I simply just don't have enough mana to do the things I want to do, and or can't afford tapping that Ancient Tomb. My opponent will play a second Rashad import, which is really bad news bears. Any chance I had of trying to untap next turn and do something before I die are vanishing. My opponent is trying to balance those things, the aggro and the Rashad imports. So they're going to activate 2 of the factories and swing in for 5, since 5 damage. going to be 2-turn clock just as well as 6 is. Except, again, they're probably not thinking about this part, that the Ancient Tomb changes that clock a little bit. Changes my clock as far as how much mana I have access to. This does mean I get to tap the Ancient Tomb and toss out an Intuition. This will let me take a look at my library, just see is there anything that can get me out of this situation. They are representing double port, and I cannot find a line that'll win at this point, so we just go to game 3. I would need something that would let me get out all 5 dragons. Well, sometimes you play a Peat Bog tapped and they start dust bowling you every turn on their turn too. So these things happen. I end up mulliganing all the way down to 4 to be on the play for game 3. Not exactly where we want to be, but my hand simply just didn't have any lands. I ended up keeping the 4 cards I kept were 3 lands and a Lion's Eye Diamond. Figured that's something, right? That's 9 mana on its own, so that'll take very little for me to get over the edge. Just a ritual and some sort of tutor with enough mana. I've got 4 copies of Intuition, 4 copies of Burning Wish, and of course lots of rituals. So I feel like my odds are decent. At least I do get to put some dragons on the bottom that I drew in my opening hand, thanks to mulliganing. My opponent opens with an Exploration again, so I'm getting a little nervous. Thankfully they whiff with their first mulch. They do have a second mulch. They do find that Dust Bowl. This is part of why I kept such a land-heavy hand. Well, not land-heavy hand, but at least out of the cards that I kept from my hand, I kept all the lands. I want to just be able to just keep playing land drops and hoping to get something off the top, assuming I'm going to get Dust Bowled in short order. Throw out that Geothermal Crevice. Means I can untap for 6 with lands, 3 with LED, so 9 like I was saying. My opponent is going to run out a Treetop Village and attack for 4 with the factories, choosing not to activate the Dust Bowl. I'll play out another Geothermal Crevice, just trying to keep the land count up. I'm expecting to be Dust Bowled this time. Not exactly sure why my opponent didn't do it last time. They want to get the aggro in. They will need to establish a clock at some point. And they take that notion to an extreme this turn and swing in for 7, putting me to 9. So there's still a turn 2 clock based on the man lands they have available, but they are just letting me untap with 8 mana based on my lands. This is a little crazy. This is absolute disrespect. I did mull to 4, but hey, the last game I won versus them was a mull to 5. Drop out another land, a City of Brass, LED, and that's going to be representing 12 mana on the battlefield. So I can go for an Intuition or Burning Wish line. Going to tap my depletion lands and sacrifice all of my geothermals. Use 2 of that mana to throw out the Burning Wish. This means I have enough mana without casting City of Brass taking any more damage, and I chuck another City of Brass. This Burning Wish is Storm 2, which means we're going to be looking at a Dragonstorm. Get 3 red and grab that Dragonstorm for Storm 3, a very low storm Dragonstorm. And the question is if 3 dragons will be enough. Thankfully, Rorix Bladewing is still in the deck, so I can bring that out for 6 power. There's only 3 different dragons, so I'm going to have at least 1 Volcanic Dragon. Now the question is, do I want another Volcanic Dragon or Bladewing the Risen? Another Volcanic Dragon obviously has haste. I can just swing in for 14. Maybe helps if they have Swords to Plowshares or something. Just keep up the aggression, do some instant damage. But it doesn't do anything else. It doesn't increase the clock otherwise. A Bladewing the Risen, however, would I ultimately settle on. If they get rid of the Rorix Bladewing, this will still let me use both of my depletion lands, which can make 4 mana, pump all my dragons for +2/+2, and make up for any missing damage on the next turn. So, staring down, 14 flying damage in the air. My opponent scoops it up, and we pull it off on a mull to 4, Storm 3 Dragonstorm. Simply got through the disrespect. My opponent had just kept dust bowling me as soon as they could. There wasn't going to be much I could do that game. We are now 3-0 with Dragonstorm. We've won on turn 2. We've won on mulls to 5, mulls to 4. This deck might just be enough to take us to the top 8. We are now 3-0. This league is going great. Get subscribed to keep following the rest of it. Drop a like on this video and leave a comment below to tell us what you think of the game. See you next time.